Better shake your booties for black girl nerves. Better shake your booties for black girl nerves.
Thanks for tuning into yet another episode of the DragonsYall recap show. We are recapping episode 5. Thank you so much for being here. We just finished live tweeting and live threading with you, and the gang's all here. The gang is back. We got Ryanne and Angelica here to talk about the episode, which we are really, really excited to dive into. Woo! All right. So, do we want to go into what happened last week? Because I know last week was, we're still reeling from the pain of what happened in episode 4.
Yeah, I'm not okay. That hurt. That was like Red Wedding hurt. Like that was Hodor level hurt.
Hodor level, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought us Ryans were cool, but I'm not cool right now, Ryanne. Rainey's, how you gonna do that to me? Come on, the end of that episode. Come on now.
She did have to be done. Yeah, Twitter was not okay. There was a lot of like obituaries, pour one out.
Celebration of or a memory of or something. Yeah, I saw that.
Pour out some ale for the queen that never was. Yeah, people were really, really upset. And I think you had called it a cheat code. So did I. A lot of people were like, Vhagar needs to die. I hate Vhagar. She is a cheat code. It's not fair. And there was a really big discussion on the fact that Vhagar actually hasn't been fighting. Vhagar so far has taken out 2 dragon riders via a sneak attack. Like it hasn't been warfare. It's been like Vhagar hiding, evading, and then chomp. So like, is Vhagar the cheat code or is Aemond just being sneaky? So we're not okay.
Yeah, I put out a thread about how mad I am at Vhagar, and I kind of take that back now because at the end of the day, it's not the dragon's fault. It's the dragon rider. Even though I'm still mad that Vhagar is ultimately responsible for Rhaenys and Meleys's, demise. But so I'm sorry, Vhagar. I am sorry that I threw a lot of haterade on you. That was a knee-jerk emotional reaction. Because at the end of the day, Aemond is really trash for what he did. And also, we have to remember, he stole you. He stole you. He claimed you as yours, and you did not belong to him. So, I wasn't right. So.
That's not right. Yeah, we're not okay. They were calling Vhagar all types of fuglies and old wench. It was like ages.
I mean, Vhagar is gonna be like, you either gotta get a big, like this huge dragon, or you gotta be quicker. Like,
Vhagar's a she.
Yeah, Vhagar is a lady dragon.
Oh, I should have known. I should have known since she's taking everybody out.
Yes.
you can't mess with a scorned woman like that. She had to come in tough, but I think you either got to be quicker or bigger, right? So people gonna get mad until it gets even.
Well, so that's what people were saying. They were saying that Meleys is the quicker dragon, and Meleys probably could have taken on Vhagar on her own. The issue was that Meleys was fighting 2 other dragons, right? Sunfire and Vhagar, and then Vhagar got Meleys with a sneak attack. Because remember, Meleys actually took Vhagar down. Like Vhagar was on the ground, a little knocked out for a bit. So, I mean, our girl did what she had to do. She strapped herself in. She sacrificed, even though Sunfire was not killed. And we'll get into that. Sunfire is pretty much useless at this point. So, there is somewhat of a silver lining here. And then there was a lot of talk about Aegon's broken Valyrian and how people were saying he should do Duolingo. There's people saying they're like, some people actually were doing High Valyrian in Duolingo, and they said they speak more High Valyrian than Aegon. So that was like a whole thing. And the other popular thing I saw from last week was the fact that while everyone else is at war, Daemon's in a horror film. So I thought that was kind of hilarious.
Yeah, I saw a post that someone put, and then I put it on Threads, which my post had kind of went viral. And
Mhm.
what the person had said was that someone said that Aegon's Valerian sounds the same way that J-Lo speaks Spanish.
Mi
That was
gente.
hilarious. That was
Mi
hilarious.
gente Latino. I feel
Yeah,
like
yeah. And a couple of people were like remarking saying, yeah, as someone who's Latino, I can definitely co-sign on what you said there. But yeah, like that scene was absolutely hilarious. And what was even funnier was just Aemond's response. The moment from Aemond. So even that has gotten its own sort of memes behind it. And I don't know if you guys have also seen the meme of Aemond on his cell phone, and then it's like it's like the poor shot of Rhaenys' demise as she's falling down, and then Aemon's on his cell phone taking a photo. Have you guys seen that meme on social
no,
media?
that's mean. I don't like
It's so
it.
yeah, these people are ruthless out in these internet streets. It's crazy.
I guess. Yeah. I mean, me just posting that daggone fallen scene had people up in chat and like tatters. They didn't know what to do with themselves. That was actually the most popular tweet of the night, was her going like this. It just broke my heart. But yeah, there was a lot of discussion. This week was pretty fun, or last week I should say was pretty fun on Twitter and on Threads. And then I guess like the final thing, I know I shared this. HBO does these little cast interviews, cast snippets where the cast gets together. So Harry, Bethany, and Phoebe got together on promo that was released a couple of days ago, and they had to read the scroll, and one of the scrolls was like, say something nice about Team Green. And while Phoebe was kind of chill, and Harry was like, I don't really want to, Bethany was like, I can't, I shan't. Like, she had nothing nice to say about Team Green. You were not about to force her. She is very Team Black. She's very loyal. So I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun covering this show and looking at all the different clips circulating online. So I'll leave it there. Any other thoughts before we get into the episode?
I mean, no, that I could talk about more stuff, but I don't want to take up too much time with this.
Right.
But yeah, there was a lot. And then also Ewan Mitchell and Fabian Frankel was also on Jimmy Kimmel, or no, Fallon. He was on Jimmy Fallon. Yeah. So they're just, I love seeing them just as themselves, as actors, and then them engaging with each other. Because at the end of the day, they all look like they really get along as friends and that they're having a great time. So if you guys haven't seen those clips, they're on YouTube. You can check out those interviews. A lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, let's get to the good stuff, or actually not the good stuff, because this episode started off really somber. So we're at Driftmark, and we see a shot of a heartbroken Corlys climb the steps of the Driftwood throne. He sits down, and just like it was like a Denzel like cry, like a small one tear falls down his face. And obviously he's been given the news of the passing of his wife, Rhaenys. And then at Dragonstone, Rhaenyra also mourns the loss of Rhaenys. So this was a huge hit to Team Black. This was not someone that could really be dispensable. And the fact that she went down, it's going to impact the trajectory of this war. So in King's Landing, Kristen Cole and company parade the head of Meleys through the streets of King's Landing, and a knight kind of declares, like, behold, the traitor dragon. And I thought that was funny. Like, how can a dragon, an animal, be a traitor? But the traitor dragon slain at the hands of King Aegon, which obviously is propaganda and a complete lie. Because Meleys was defeated, unfortunately, by Vhagar, but they're obviously going to give the credit to Aegon. And then Kristen is kind of befuddled because the people aren't celebrating or cheering. Like, they're kind of shook. And Gawain calls it a strange victory, if it could even be called one. The small folk actually whisper amongst themselves that this is a black omen. They call the death of a dragon an abomination. They say Rhaenyra should pay for this. She has to answer for this. One spectator even refers to the dragons as gods. He's like, he had no idea they could be killed. And Hugh, the hammer, he's amongst the people in the crowd, says that they're mortal, they're just meat. And then at the Red Keep, while this is happening, while they're, carting Melee's head throughout the city, there's kind of a more conspicuous wagon. It's like covered with like blankets and things. It looks like a bunch of supplies. But we as an audience are pretty intelligent. We know they're sneaking in Aegon into the city. And Allison is watching as he's brought in, and Aemond joins her at the turrets. And she kind of looks suspiciously at her youngest son. Like, she's looking at him like, what did you have to do with this? And then Aegon ends up being brought to his chambers, where a group of healers supervised by Grand Maester are waiting for him. And then there's also a set of Silent Sisters nearby. And if anyone knows anything about this world, the Silent Sisters are there to attend to the dead. So I'll pause there before I kind of go into what's going on with Aegon for your thoughts on the opening scene with Corlys and Rhaenyra, and then Kristen's blunder of bringing a dragon head through the city.
Okay, well, first, the opening shot of Driftmark was breathtaking. So that was something beautiful to at least come in for just like a split second, like 5 couple seconds there. Before you see poor Corlys, you see Rhaenyra. It's just sad. Like they're echoing everything that everybody's been talking about on Twitter and Instagram. We just hurt, knowing that we're missing this part of the black team now. Somebody that Rhaenyra was looking up to, somebody that was, an amazing fighter, that was definitely made her mark on the war. So it was definitely just position for me to see that beautifulness and then that sadness. I thought was such an interesting way to open. And then Melee, like, I wanted to see dragons, but I didn't want to see that dragon head coming in on the card like that. That's not what I was talking about. But we all know Kristen, like, dude is just running into the ground, how we just really not liking him. The character, y'all don't go after his social media pages, but I'm saying the character is just really knocking it in, how it's just getting brutal out there. And I don't know, you can see some look on his face that, maybe I messed up, right? Like maybe I did something a little bit there, but he's not the type of person to like stop himself. He's like full force. I'm in it right now with his family. I'm gonna take it to the brink. They got to do what they do. They got to do what they can do to cover up the king, because they know people gonna find out. They know a lot of people already, the small folk already don't trust them. So they're doing what they can kind of do to kind of hide and come in. But yeah, that was like an interesting shot to just see, like, I don't know if it was good, whatever was dripping out was just like, the whole shot was just crazy to see them coming through, or open. Maybe it wasn't dripping, whatever was open behind it. You could see like just the head there or whatever coming through the city was just crazy to see. So like the imagery just opening up this show was crazy.
Agreed. Jamie.
Yeah, it definitely started off on a somber tone. I mean, we're still reeling from episode 4, and then coming into this episode, you're like, oh, Corlys, because that's the first thing I thought of the moment that her life had ended. I was like, what is going to happen to Corlys? Because this, like you had mentioned in your tweet, which for some reason was controversial to some people, they are the most healthiest couple on this show, and to see that they're no longer, he's no longer with her, they're no longer together, it was just really sad to see that, and to see him in mourning like that was just, it broke my heart. So, and then it broke my heart even more to see the head of Melee's. I was like, and we did see the preview of that, which, by the way, come on, y'all was killing us. Like we witnessed this terrible tragedy in episode 4, and then when we see the preview of next week, we see the head of Melee's. But yeah, seeing the head of Melee's going through King's Landing like that. By the way, I had a visceral reaction. Like, I'm like, God, it probably stinks, because you see the little gnats flying around Melee's head, and wide open wound, and going through the through King's Landing. And I think the small folks' reaction to that is just very significant, because at the end of the day, these are the folks that are impacted by war. These are the people that are adversely affected in some of the most worst ways, whether it's through, them starving, not being able to take care of their families, whether they are innocents themselves being killed in the crossfire. Because of this rivalry of egos for the crown, for the throne, all of these people, the small folk, are affected. So yeah, they're not cheering. They're sad about this. And then there was one more point that I had on my mind, and then it completely
the Aegon's body being, or not body, well, Aegon.
Oh yeah, and then as far as and you brought up a good point about Aegon, because I didn't think about it as them shielding him, but that's probably the reason why they had him in that sort of makeshift casket. I didn't think about him being shielded from the townsfolk. I just thought of it as a kind of a crafty device of people thinking that he's dead, and then having this reveal of, oh no, he's actually alive, kind of thing. Because there are some people who aren't familiar with the book that actually think that he's dead. So that's what I was thinking that they were going with when they brought out the casket, or I guess that's what it was called, of Aegon. And having people think, oh, wow, he really is gone. And then you see the next scene, it's like, oh, I guess he's not. So
I think it works, though. I think for non-book readers that see the scene, they're going to assume that Aegon is gone, right? And then once you see him being walked up the steps and then they put him on the bed, then it's like, oh, he's not dead. But for those of us that read the books and know that he's alive, it was like almost like a red herring, like, oh, they're sneaking him into the city because they don't want the small folk to know that he's dead or injured, which will weaken, the claim that the Greens have. Therefore, we're going to sneak in him and hide him away, basically.
right.
So I think it worked two ways for the audience.
Agreed.
Yeah, so I guess let's get into it, because we're in the OR essentially, even though it's Aegon's chambers. I mean, he's being attended to by a handful of maesters. As I mentioned, the Silent Sisters are also there in the event that he passes, because they prepare the body for burial. So Alicent, obviously she's a mother, even though she hasn't been the best mother, this is still her son. And she kind of watches helplessly as these maesters are removing his Valyrian steel armor. It was a very hard scene to watch, because they use like the scalpel to take off the armor from his body, and it's kind of stuck, and then you can see the blood and the burns. And there's this really terrible scene where another maester sets his leg, and you can see the bone completely exposed. That was a bit much for me. I was like okay,
too much.
Right, that's too. We get it. And true to her being a mother, she's asking all these questions while this is essentially bothering the surgeon, performing emergency surgery. So she's like, what happened? Is he going to be okay? And then Master Orwell is like, with all due respect, back up. Right? Because these
let me do
my job are going to be critical. So she kind of takes a step back, and then Aemond once again appears. He's at the foot of his brother's bed, and he tells Alicent someone will have to rule in his stead. So a lot's happening here. The very next scene, Alicent goes to Criston's chambers, and he is methodically cleaning his sword. And I found it interesting that he's a lemon, and then put it in salt and clean. I just thought that was interesting. I like homemade cleaning products, so that scene was interesting to me, even though I hate Criston. But she asked him what happened. He kind of avoids the question. He doesn't answer her directly. He says, we got the castle, at the cost of 900 men. I left behind a garrison to defend the castle and to watch over Sunfire. So Sunfire, this is not mentioned on the show, but Sunfire in the book his wing is nearly like ripped off. And Sunfire was described as like the most beautiful dragon in all of dragonhood. Like there was no one that looked like Sunfire. And so after this battle, Sunfire can't fly. So he's left behind at Rook's Rest. And he's referred to as the Golden Worm after that. You know, you can just see him kind of like going about his business. He's brought sheep to be fed on, but just like his rider is pretty much all broken up, so is Sunfire. So back to the current scene, Alicent is like, yeah, I don't care about all that. What happened to Aegon? And Kristen once again kind of gaslights her and says, you know, he fought valiantly. And she's like, no, what did Aemond have to do with this? Like, what was his part? And Kristen basically denies knowing anything. He's like, I can't tell you. So I'll stop there for your thoughts on the operations scene with Aegon, and then Alicent's suspicion and her questioning Kristen about what went down. Whoever wants to go first.
The Maester scene was intense. Like anytime they get together like that, I'm like, just zoom out so I don't have to see all of it. Just zoom out. But yeah, I did, for somebody that didn't read the book at first, before I saw them coming up the steps, I did think he was a goner. The way you see it like and you don't notice at first, like the Valyrian steel, that, you know, is no joke. So, you know, thanks to that Valyrian steel, I mean, we got this scene, but I mean, you know, he's still breathing. You know, what comes from that, the people that don't read the book don't know. So I'm curious to see what's going to go down. It was bringing me back to those the series days where we just kind of watching them like go away and he's just in the bed and everybody else is doing everything else. So it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. But you could tell by like Alicent rolling up beside Aemond and just kind of like watching him and just kind of trying to get answers from Kristen. She knows something is not right. But, you know, Alicent, typical to form, has like painted herself into this box, right? So, you know, how is she going to get out of it? Like, she already knows she's surrounded by these men, you know, that aren't listening. She knows her son did something. She's like, something's not right here. She's looking at his movements. You know, Aemond doesn't really speak to them that much anymore. He kind of does his own thing. So it's just interesting to kind of see her watch and be caught in the middle of like one son that's really badly hurt, that wasn't listening, another son that you could tell doesn't want anything to do with her. He's got his eyes set on the throne. So it's just very interesting to see her like caught up in between both of those. So yeah, I'm interested to see how this is gonna go down.
Agreed. Jamie?
I wanted to skip back a few scenes prior, which I forgot to talk about, which is the scene between Aemond and Alicent, where she's kind of like looking at him all suspicious. She obviously is pretty intuitive. I mean, you know, mother's intuition, but she looks down over on his side and he's got the cat's paw dagger, which is a very important dagger that we know in the Game of Thrones universe. And I just want to speak to something that's happening in the fandom right now, because there are a lot of people. The cat's paw dagger is, for those who are familiar with Game of Thrones, is the same dagger that killed the Night King. And there are people in the Game of Thrones, not even in the Game of Thrones fandom, because I feel like if you are, you probably know this already. But there are people that are watching House of the Dragon that are saying that Aemond is the Night King. And I just want to say, you guys, can you go back and watch Game of Thrones and remember what the Night King even looks like and how he came to be? Because this guy looks nothing like Aemond Targaryen. I'm just saying, like, we already know how he came to be and that story. So I just wanted to point that out as we saw that scene with the cat's paw dagger. But going forward to these scenes, also, by the way, I think that Kristen's method of cleaning his sword was interesting. Was that lemon that he was using? Like lemon and okay.
Yeah, so I had said earlier, I was like, it was like he dipped lemon in salt and kind of used that to like scourge the sword. I was like, oh, that's cool. I should do that.
New cleaning method for stainless steel, I guess. He said that Aegon fought, you know, valiantly, and yet he didn't have much to say about Aemond's role in that. And You know, I don't even know what to say to that other than the fact that I don't know why he's covering for Aemond. I really don't. I mean, I guess he's got to be loyal to the king, but what's the stake there for Aemond? You're about to say something, Angelica.
I was gonna say, for those of you that watch Love Island USA, I feel like Aemond is Aaron and Kristen is Rob, and everybody hates Rob. Everybody hates Rob, so everyone hates Kristen. They're like the best of friends. They all got their whole girlfriends, but they ride for each other. You think they're more in love with each other than the girls on the show. So, anyways, I think
now that's interesting. I will say now that's interesting because I didn't think about it like that. Yeah, that's interesting.
Oh, you watch Love Island too?
Oh yeah,
I'm sorry.
I know exactly what you're talking
it.
about. Yeah,
okay,
because all the rage.
Metaphor is going way over my head. So.
Yeah, that's gonna have everybody thinking like Aaron. I didn't think of okay. I mean, they are like the bromance on the show, but the negativity, I don't know if it's the same. But I see what you're going. I see where you're going with it.
Yeah, everybody like basically they're
bros
islanders
before
on
hoes
the show.
Kind of thing.
Exactly,
100%.
exactly.
Okay.
And everybody hates Rob. Like the girls in the house hate Rob. The Twitter audience, everybody hates Rob. Just like everyone hates Kristen. So I was like, oh, that's Rob and Aaron 2.0. So I just think
that's gonna be stuck in my head from now on.
Right. So I just think ever since they had their coupling, there was obviously a lot of guilt and grief involved with that, and you can see them slowly distancing. Like he's supposed to be her sworn sword, but you can see him pulling away little by little by little, and her power is dwindling. So he's pretty much you're a woman, stay in your place. I don't have to tell you anything, because he's meeting secretly with Aemond anyway. So that's why I feel like he's just kind of doing what he wants. Like, what are you gonna do about it, Allison? You have no power. So just my thoughts there. But yeah, definitely watch Love Island, Jamie. It is like, if you're ever on a long flight, just go ahead and just get to watch it. It is peak reality TV. I know we're talking about
be careful, but you will get addicted. Be careful.
Yes. Okay. Jamie's like, I don't got time. Anyways, so so a lot going on. So we're gonna go ahead back over to Dragonstone. The Black Council is basically discussing everything that's transpired, right? They lost their largest dragon, they lost Rook's Rest, they lost Duskendale. Criston Cole and his his army are able to roam the Crownlands unchecked. They have no ground army, right? Except for the army that Daemon is supposed to raise at Harrenhal. So they're basically like effed up. Like there's no other word to describe it. Sir Alfred says Daemon has all but abandoned them after some marital spat. Like he's clearly disgusted. And the rest of the council, I love their reaction when he said that. They were like, no, everyone's like, oh, they were like this. They were like, oh, no, he did not. Just disrespect the queen. And Rhaenyra definitely caught on because she like stood up and like, is there a problem? Do you have an issue with me? And he's just like, no, I'm loyal to you. And she says, no, I don't question your loyalty, but I do question whether or not you respect me, especially in the time of war. And he says, like, I don't question your intelligence. I don't question your capability, but the gentler sex. So like, he's basically going on like a misogynistic rant, hasn't been privy to battle or its execution. And then Rhaenyra gets him because she says, my father ruled peacefully, so you've seen no more battles than I have. And I was like, now check that. Rhaenyra, she's starting to stand. Mic drop. So she kind of put him in his place. They sit down, and then she orders them, the Black Council, to send supplies and weapons to Maidenpool, which is located in the Riverlands, and to Crackclaw Point, which is located in the Crownlands, for their garrisons. If Cole proceeds his campaign, at least their allies will be ready for him. So Sir Stephen Darkland, and remember, he is from Duskendale, and his father was Lord of Duskendale, and his father was actually killed a couple episodes ago. Criston took off his head. So he's like, your grace, we must answer for Rook's Rest and Duskendale. And then Sir Bartimus Celtigar says, they lost that, right? There's no point in recovering that. But Vhagar has been depleted after that battle. And Aegon most likely will be dead soon. Now is the time to strike. Rhaenyra is like, okay, well, I need to be the one to do it. And then Lord Gorman's like, no, you're the crown. You cannot leave Dragonstone. You know, Rhaenyra's being put in a box. She's kind of the same complaints that Jace has had about not being able to do anything. Rhaenyra's in that same place. So she becomes really frustrated and she says, what would you have me do? And then the scene ends. So before I turn over to your thoughts on this scene, I did want to point out one thing, and this is something that I haven't mentioned before because I forgot, but in doing these recaps, I've been kind of uncovering things. So thus far, we've only seen the Valerians and the Targaryens mentioned as the old blood of Valyria, right? But there's actually other houses that came with them. Lord Bartimus of House Celtigar. House Celtigar was actually another lesser house in Old Valyria, and they followed the Targaryens to Dragonstone and to Westeros when they fled the doom predicted by Daemon the Dreamers. So there are other, I wouldn't call them Targaryens, but there is old Valyrian blood that's still alive and well in Westeros. So that may or may not be helpful, but I thought that was interesting that, you know, although Lord Celtigar kind of goes at Rhaenyra a lot, he's kind of related to her in many ways, like literally. So I'll stop there for your thoughts on that scene with the Black Council and, you know, Rhaenyra kind of trying to find her place.
I like this. I like this a lot better than the one where you have to watch Alicent like squirm in between the men, knowing that she's not going to get anything done. And Rhaenyra's always like, Rhaenyra and Sir Alfred, boy, that could be a show in itself. Every time it's like the small council, like they are ready to go. Like he's like, look, you need to move now. What are you doing? And you can tell, right? It's always going to be that sexist thing of women cannot rule, women can't make decisions. To me, that's one of the hardest parts about watching this universe is because it's so frustrating. You're like, the women are doing it. They're handling business. They're going out fighting. They having these kids where they don't know if they're going to survive, you know, after the birth and everything. It's like, what does it take for you to be like, they deserve equal footing too, and, you know, equal, you know, rights as well. So that's like one of the hardest things to watch. But yeah, I love how Rhaenyra she's like, look, I understand what's going on, but what would you have me do? Like, you won't let me go out and fight. So why do we keep having this discussion? Like, sit down and start offering something, you know, besides fighting with me every time. So I like how she always goes back at him. So that scene was definitely interesting. And that the side note that you brought up, I guess I'll come back to at the end because I was curious about that. I think it brings up like an interesting scenario towards the end.
Yes. We'll definitely talk about that.
Yeah,
Jamie.
Yeah, no, I don't really have rather much to add other than that this whole entire episode is really about the patriarchy and just how much BS goes into how this establishment is so oppressive over women. And it really sucks. I mean, we're seeing it happening now in real time with Alicent and the diminishment of her power, and then how here Rhaenyra is the queen and she's even being challenged as queen, which, you know, if she was a king, he would have been gone. Like, really, like you can't talk to, he really would have been gone. Like, you can't talk to someone in her position of authority like that, but yet she is challenged at every turn. And it also makes me wish that Rhaenys was still around, because I feel like she would be there, you know, as sort of that voice of reason to be like, guys, what are we doing?
I know.
And I miss having that. I mean, she really doesn't have like another person in her corner, another woman, quite frankly, because the men are trash, or they're just not there for her.
Yeah, they
I'm not trying
to rude.
Yeah, it's just the reality. Like, there's, other than her son Jace, there's really no other men around her that's really that supportive. And as we learn, and we'll talk about later in this episode, even her own husband. So
uncle. I love saying uncle. Sorry.
Her uncle.
That's my favorite word now. Sorry.
No. So yeah, I'm just wrapping up. So yeah, it's really sad, and it pains me that Rhaenyra is just going through this, and she's having to deal with at every moment throughout her whole existence, men just trying to make her feel small.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? Viserys would never. Viserys always stood and supported his daughter and was like,
Did.
she will rule. So he was a man
That's
ahead of
true,
his
that's true.
time. All right.
Indeed.
Wow. Speaking of strong women, we turn to Bela, our girl Bela. She's reading in the library when Jace enters, her cousin, fiance, step sibling. There's just a lot of family dynamics here. And she kind of says where you're going, but I feel like he's walking into a library. So I feel like the only reason why she thinks that he's going anywhere is because probably he has on his dragon riding clothes. And Jace is like, yeah, I'm gonna head to Harrenhal and I'm gonna treat with Daemon. And he basically wants him to reaffirm his loyalty to his mother and report his status. Bela's like, how can you tame him considering Rhaenyra was unable to? And Jace is like, well, I have to do something. My mom sends you to fly and fight on her behalf, and I'm confined to this castle like a coddled princeling. It's like humiliating. And Bela's like, look, she's only protecting you. You are his heir. And then you also have to remember, this is her not saying this to Jace, but she just lost Luke. So she's not about to send out another son to die. But Jace is like, that's fine. I'm the heir, so then I should be able to be seen acting on her behalf to, reaffirm my claim and hers. Like, he's basically saying, I need to be about that business. He cannot sit still anymore. And he decides, a bright idea, right? A light bulb. He decides to treat with the Freys as they control the crossing at the Twins. And I'm just going to pause there. Anytime the Twins and the Freys are mentioned, my heart drops, because the last time that we saw someone try to negotiate with the Freys for the crossing at the Twins, it didn't go too well.
It didn't go so well.
Just saying. And I don't know if I can trust. Yeah, I don't know if I can trust their ancestors to be honorable, but we shall see. So obviously, I was like, not the Twins. But they do control the crossing, right? Which is, there's this huge river. They're on either side. Otherwise, you have to go around, which is why Robb Stark had to negotiate with the Freys in the original series. So Cregan Stark, if you remember, is sending an army of Greybeards down. If he can get them to pass through the Twins, then they don't really have to worry about Daemon at Harrenhal, because they have an army now. They have a ground army. So Bela's like, that's great, but your mom's never going to allow that. He's like, okay, well, just don't tell her. So I love their friendship. She's like, all right, like, basically tell her when I'm gone. She nods in agreement. So I'll pause there, although we'll add one extra note. I love the conversation around Harry this season. I know the thirst is real, but it cracks me up how much people love them watching Harry play Jace. Someone said he's the Legolas of this universe, always serving face in every frame. Like, every time you saw Orlando Bloom as Legolas, he was just serving face in the corner, whether he was part of the scene or not. So I'll stop there for your thoughts.
Oh, I just love them. Boy, they would be a good king and queen. Like, I just love them. Every time they start talking, and you just want to hear, like, what they're picking up, what they're learning from their parents, what they're not learning, what they're leaving behind. It's just so interesting. But it just makes me scared because of their surroundings. I love them so much that it makes me scared that they're my favorites because of what they're surrounded by and, what they're going to have to face. And see, I see Angelica's face, and that's what I think about every time I think about how excited I am to see them in a scene together. So yeah, but I mean, and Bethany, like, I just loved seeing her play in this scene. She was just playing with the hurt, and like you said, being this cousin, fiance, whatever mixture she got to be in this, and trying to read him, and like, I know you getting ready to go off and do your thing, but you need to sit down. But I know what you get ready to go do. So I love she just plays so well in there. I just loved it so much. But yeah, I'm on the edge of my seat every time because I just know this world and I know this universe and I just love them so much. But yeah, I digress. That's my thoughts.
Yes, ma'am. Jamie.
And look, I was thinking the same thing as you when it came to the Freys and the twins, and I was thinking about Robb Stark, and I'm like, oh my gosh, no, please don't let this be me. I'm triggered. No, I don't trust these ancestors either. Yeah, I mean, we'll see how this all plays out, but I do love Jace and Bela. They are an incredible couple, and this is a great scene. I thought this was absolutely wonderful. And to speak to your comment about Harry Collett, I just want to add to that because a lot of people on social media are talking about the fact that he gives face in a lot of scenes. And you mentioned Legolas. A lot of people, at least in the Threads community, they're saying that he is much like Zoolander. So
no.
Actually, yeah, because Zoolander
Maybe blue stealing.
Yeah,
blue stealing it in the corner.
So when he purses his lips and they have side by side comparisons, I was like, yeah, he kind of does. I mean, of course, he's way more good looking as far as the character goes, but yeah, I can definitely understand and see the comparisons. But yeah, I think that this is a great. I like the fact that Jace is taking on more authority and showing people the dignitary that he is, and we'll see how this all plays out as far as the negotiation goes, but it seems like he's really kind of coming into his own, and I like seeing the growth of how he's evolved from season 1 to now. He's very much like a man. Like he's really grown.
Right?
In more ways than one.
That's not the little boy.
The wig makes a difference. Yeah, he's not a little boy anymore. Yeah, because he was kind of like this little, scrappy kid in season 1, and he reminds me a lot of Robb Stark. He reminds me a lot of Robb Stark.
Which is not good. That's not a good omen.
Robb Stark phrase. Yeah, this is not a good direction. But yeah, great scene.
Yes, it was a great scene. So we'll head back to the Riverlands, and Daemon and Willem Black. I'm sorry, I'm trying not to giggle at this scene because it really is actually one of my favorite scenes of the episode. Daemon and Willem Blackwood meet with the Brackens. Mounted on Caraxes, Daemon threatens them to bend the knee or die. So it was very reminiscent of Daenerys Targaryen, right? Making people bend the knee on the back of Drogon. The Brothers, they're not working with the Blackwoods. They've obviously been feuding for no one even knows how far back they've been feuding for an age. And they're not about to join up with them. I don't care what you say. So they, Daemon's like, okay, well, so what's going to happen, right? And they're like, yep, we choose fire. And they just turn their backs on Daemon. And there's a shot of Caraxes lowering his head, and you just know it's about to be flame on. And it cuts to a scene of Daemon's pretty much sitting down on some rocks in the middle of the field. Like, wow, I was not expecting them to want to die so eagerly. He was flabbergasted. So Willem's like, you should have indulged him. You see what I've been working with for all these years? We hate them. And Daemon's like, look, we need to keep them alive. I came here to raise an army, not corpses. And Willem's like, no, they don't deserve to live. They're pig-headed. They're stubborn. He's just rattling off every reason why I hate their face. I hate how they dress. Just going through everything he hates about them. And Daemon's like, look, they said they would rather burn than succumb. That is something that he respects, and that is the type of men that they need. So Willem's like, okay, that's all well and good, but they are unyielding. And Daemon's like, okay, well, you should stop fighting them, and you should start persuading them. And they kind of give each other this look, And Willem goes, yeah, every man has his weakness. And Daemon's like, you're picking up what I'm putting down. He's like, there are certain things that the crown cannot be seen doing. Show them your worst. And Willem says, I am your servant. He gets on his horse and he goes. So once again, Daemon is just at it again. I feel like war crimes are on the horizon. So your thoughts on that scene? Because it tickled me.
I can't take Matt Smith no more, because every time it's like you have to think about how great of an actor he is, like how he's just killing the game. But then you got Daemon, and you like Daemon is the worst. Like every time he opens his mouth and he's you that little look, and he's like, well, I'm gonna kind of give you this hint. I'm gonna tell you to do this, but I'm not really gonna tell you to do it. But I also need you to fear me, so I know you're gonna do it. It's just that whole thing. Like every time he approaches somebody, it's just his aura. So. Yeah, that whole scene, and like you said, the dragon head coming around, which was like an amazing shot, by the way. But I just knew they were toast. I was like, they played that so well. I just knew,
literally.
I just knew, yeah, right. Like I just knew it was going to Jakara's. You know what I mean? Like just the whole thing coming through, which is so cool to see. But yeah, you just got that as soon as Daemon like finished his whole sentence, she like, oh my god, what does he get ready to do? Why can't he just sit down? I mean, he already in a horror movie. Don't he got enough to stress about? Like, why is she just taking it over the top? Like, just sit down. It's just all I was thinking. I was like, geez.
Yeah, he does the most. Jamie?
And someone on social media said, what war crimes am I going to forgive Daemon for this week?
Exactly. Jeez.
Pretty much.
He's doing crimes like every episode. But he has his stands. He has his fans, boy. Let me tell you. This scene, this was, man, the Brackens, they went out like, geez, man.
It was like
burn us. We don't care.
That's a gangster move right there. Like, wow, okay. I kind of low key wanted to see the burns though. I kind of low key wanted to see Billy Caraxes do the thing and hear like Daemon say Durakaris and see the fire explode, but I get it. It was very dramatic cutting to the scene of him sort of feeling kind of disappointed that, wow, they really gave in. They all died. Wow, was not expecting that. So like you said, Angelica, it kind of turned out to be a little bit more humorous than tragic. It's like Daemon was disappointed. He was expecting to really get some negotiation happening, and he's like, wow, they really all died.
They chose death. Yeah. Them Brackens, we need them. We need them on our side.
Them. Yeah, but that was a good line about like that is the kind of men I need, because those are the men that, they are like a ride or die type of group, as far as their philosophies and their beliefs go. So yeah, like that was something else. And that was a great shot too. I agree with you, Ryan, of Caraxes in the background and seeing like the dragon lowered. Yeah, it was very dramatic and it was good to see. And by the way, a lot of people online are criticizing like the CGI of the dragons this year. I think the CGI looks way better this season than it did season 1. Felt like season 1 was kind of a little off on the CGI, but they stepped it up this season. So I don't know what y'all looking at, but I like the CGI dragons this season.
What do they? I'm just trying to figure out, what do they expect, and do they realize like how much money goes into the CGI, and if it's going to take longer? So stop complaining about how long it takes the show to come out. Like, anyways, people just complain. Like, what are they? I don't know. What are they looking at? Although I will add, Daemon did exercise restraint. He actually did not kill them. He was just impressed by the fact that they turned their backs and were fully prepared to die.
Okay. So he didn't actually kill them.
No, he didn't kill them. He was just like, damn, I wasn't expecting them to want to die. Like, wow.
I thought they got burned.
No, they would have shouted. No, he's actually spared their lives because of basically like they was about their business. He was like, oh. And he's basically, that's why he told Willem, like, convince them a different way, because these are very hardened men and we need people like that on our side. So yeah, they didn't die. It would have been nice. And by the way, you're actually in Bracken colors, Jamie. You're wearing yellow. Just saying. They're yellow and red. So, anyways, that was probably one of my top favorite scenes of the entire series. He was like,
oh
wow. Yeah. And just the humor in it was just funny to me. Like, Daemon just was not expecting them to be like standing on business. Like, there's no other way around that. He was like, oh, okay. All right. So we go to a new location, y'all. This is the first time we've seen the Vale this entire series. Last time we saw the Vale was in Game of Thrones. And we see the castle, the Eyrie, in all of its glory. It's such a peaceful, beautiful place. Lady Jane Eyre, she's played by Amanda Collin, recounts to Rhaena how the Eyrie is impregnable. And if you remember from season... It was season 1 when Tyrion was taken away. Bronn said, what did he say? Give me 10 men and spikes and I'll impregnate the bitch. So, that
all right now.
That was a callback to the original series, because Lady Jane said it's impregnable, but not from the skies. So Rhaena, she's kind of looking out the window. She's really not paying attention what Lady Jane has to say. And she's like, are you listening, child? And Rhaena goes, oh, yeah. So it's there, you have dragons. You asked for a dragon. Rhaenyra gave you 2. And Lady Jane scoffs. She's like, they're too small. I have hounds that are bigger and more intimidating than these dragons. And then Rhaena's like, well, you didn't specify the size of the dragon. Like, Rhaena's riding for her family. Lady Jane chastises her. She's like, are you goading me, child? Considering, you have to rely on me for food and shelter. And Jane states that, she dislikes feeling powerless, something that Rhaena knows all too well. So Jane's like, leaves her to herself. She says, get ready for supper. And also condolences on the loss of your grandmother. And Rhaena's kind of taken aback. This is the first that she's heard of Rhaenys' death. So I'll add there. We originally thought that Rhaena was going to end up in Essos. And that was the intention. She was supposed to go to the Eyrie. I believe Joffrey was going to be fostered there, drop off the dragons, and then at a later date, she would be heading over to Essos. So that plan is still in place. She's just staying at the Eyrie for a while. And I'll talk about this at the end of the recap about the potential of the dragon eggs and maybe a potential plot point from the books. But I'll get to that later. And yeah, so I just thought the scene was like, it was short, but it was exciting because we were in a new location for once. So your thoughts on that small little scene there?
Yeah, I did like the new location. I don't know about Lady Jane though. I don't know if I was feeling her because she was giving a little sketch there to me for a little bit, and the way she was, mixing up with Rhaena, and I don't like the way she looked like she was about to smile when she was like, my sympathies for the death of your grandmother. Like, she looked like she didn't really like the sympathies weren't really there. She kind of wanted to smile or something to me, like just kind of looking at her face. But I do like being able to see Rhaena get more, like, hopefully there's more into that. I like to see her, defending her family, getting into that, saying it a little more, because usually we get like a line and then she's off the camera. So I like being able to kind of get to see her play in these scenes a little bit more. But yeah, Lady Jane, I don't know. I don't know about her, so maybe I'm gonna be surprised, but something felt a little weird in the scene. But I guess I'm gonna see what's coming next.
Yeah, she's a little snooty. Jamie?
Yeah, so okay, I have a question. So is there a passage of time here, because Rhaena left Dragonstone with the eggs, right?
Yes.
With the eggs. Okay, so then Lady Jane says that she's got the dragons, but they're little baby dragons.
Mm-hmm.
Like little tiny little cute baby dragons. So are those the same dragons from the eggs, or are these different dragons?
So those were the dragons. So Rhaenyra sent Rhaena with the 4 dragon eggs and then 2 small dragons. Those dragons belong to, I believe,
okay.
the series and Aegon. So those are their hatchlings. I don't know if Joffrey has a dragon. I don't think so. But yeah, those are the young Targaryen boys' dragons that are given to Lady Jane.
Yeah, okay, so 2 hatchlings.
Yeah,
with
2
the
hatchlings.
4 eggs. Okay.
Yeah,
For some reason I missed that. Okay. Because I was like, did the eggs hatch and there was just like a passing time? Okay. Yeah. This is a great scene. We learn about Lady Jane, and she definitely will be playing a big role in this show as we move forward into the series. So it was good to see her. It was, like you said, it was good to go back to the Vale. And get into another, because this show is so insular. We only have like
3.
Dragonstone, King's Landing,
sometimes Driftmark.
sometimes Driftmark. Yeah, exactly. And then hopefully we'll go to Pentos eventually and go to Essos and hang out there as we see what Rhaena is doing. But yeah, and that's good that we see Rhaena, because we were concerned about, I think it was last week when we talked about her leaving. Oh, well, we get to see her, but we see her now in this scene. So hopefully that'll be in more episodes to come. I don't have any opinions about Lady Jane so far. I know a little bit about her lore. I know that, that she's got some, she likes, well, I'll just keep that. I won't even go further than that. Okay.
We'll find out.
Yeah. But I know a little bit about her lore, so curious to see if there will be parallels between the book Lady Jane and the TV Lady Jane. Let's just say that.
Yeah. We shall see. So, unfortunately, we have to leave the Eyrie and we go back to Dragonstone. And Rhaenyra is confiding in Mysaria that her council doesn't trust her. Her father didn't prepare her for war. She's a girl who, she was educated, but she was never taught, the art of war. She was never handed a sword. Rhaenyra does not know how to defend herself. And Mysaria tells her there is more than one way to win a war. Cole made a mistake by parading Melis's head through the streets. The small folk are scared. Food is scarce. Their king has fallen, and they're worried. They're whispering that during the reign of King Viserys there was peace, and then Rhaenyra wonders if whispers will win a war. And Mysaria encourages her to believe in her subjects. It's possible to turn the tide, right? To turn these people in her favor. Whispers are feed to the discontent, to the forgotten. So she tells to Rhaenyra to let others do what she cannot. That kind of echoed the scene with Daemon earlier, with Willem Blackwood saying the crown cannot be seen to do certain things, right? So Mysaria is kind of offering the same type of service. Let us do something for you that you cannot do on your own. And we cut to a shot of Alinda, who is Rhaenyra's lady in waiting, leaving the castle under the cover of night, and she's wearing a red hood. And you know what time it is when people put their hood on. I wouldn't say they're up to no good, but they up to something.
We know Daemon when he puts his on.
Right. His murder hood. But Alinda is a sweetie, She's been a long time lady in waiting of not only Rhaenyra, but of the Targaryens. She's very loyal. So whatever mission they sent poor Alinda on, I know she got them. So, I know that was a brief scene, but do you have any thoughts there on what went down between Rhaenyra and Mysaria?
I just enjoyed it. And I also like how Jamie's team, the small folks, kind of came up, in the scene. Yeah, like I love how it was. Yeah, I love how it was a combination of like Team Black, Team Small folks, a little bit in there. But yeah, I liked her encouraging Rhaenyra, because I just felt so bad for her in this episode. She's getting challenged from every single side where she shouldn't be. She doesn't, she wasn't given, the sword fighting skills, being that she was a woman. So I felt like she was just so conflicted on like, what do I do? How do I protect my space? How do I protect my crown? So I like Mysaria coming up like, now, we do have something else. You don't have to just directly fight, with these guys. So I do like that. Although, Mysaria, you got to keep a little side eye on Mysaria, but I do like her in this moment. So You got to be careful with it, but I do appreciate her advice at this moment.
Yeah. Jamie, any thoughts?
Yeah. Masari is like the social justice advocate for the small folks. She really is, because she's always thinking of them, always advocating for them. And it's good that she's got the ear of the queen to be able to talk about these issues. We'll see if Rhaenyra listens and actually puts any sort of authoritarian policies or whatever in place to help the small folk. But it's a shame that there's not like a Massaria on the Team Green side to tell those folks, even though they're all trash, and I don't even think that they would listen anyway, about the small folk, because those folks are really, really struggling. But yeah, it's I'm just, I had a lot of mixed feelings about Massaria in season 1. But she's really showing herself to be someone that's for the people, and I really respect that about her. So
yeah, although we have to look out for people that are strictly for the people when it comes to rulers, because we saw how that worked out for Varys, right? He almost turned against Daenerys because he knew she wasn't the best ruler, and he did get burnt up. So it can cost you. But yeah, Massaria is good in my book for now. So we cut to Bela and Rhaenyra, and Bethany had quite an episode. I mean, this is just another scene with her. She's getting a lot of screen time, so that's really great to see. So Bela sits with Rhaenyra, right, expressing her sadness, imagining Rhaenys, her grandmother, lying in a field broken amongst her enemies. And Rhaenyra tells Bela stories about Rhaenys claiming Melies. And Bela recalls, my father was so angry at her for claiming his mother's dragon. And Rhaenyra is like, yeah, Rhaenys was fierce, just like you. You remind me a lot of her. And with Rhaenys gone, Rhaenyra tells Bela that she needs to rely on her now. So Bela is essentially promoted, right? She's the queen's confidant now. And she also hands Bela a box to give to Corlys, as she says she does not wish to stand alone. So we'll kind of find out what's in that box later in the episode. Very short scene, and I'm not a lot to go off of, but just your thoughts on that sweet exchange between Bela and Rhaenyra.
I just love the girl power and the fact that they still have, each other to lean on. And I like the little moment where Rhaenyra puts her hand on Bela's hand, just to kind of she sees she's going through it there for a little bit. So I don't know. I just love them. And I'm just always just scared, because I'm like, I know they're fighting this battle where they're just like slowly kind of losing tools, but at least they have each other and they're very strong. So you just kind of bank on that. Yeah, to keep you pushing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rhaenyra. Yeah, Rhaenyra is, I love the relationship, and Bela needs this because Daemon is a terrible dad. So she really needs a good mother figure to, give her support, to make her feel good about herself, all of the things that you need as a young girl coming into your own and growing up. So it's just good that Rhaenyra is there to guide her, to comfort her, to make her feel like she is someone that is worthy of taking on more responsibility. And I'm absolutely loving this for her. So I'm glad that she's still in Dragonstone with Moondancer, and that she's able to be a part of doing these battles, because I'm sure that helps make her feel like, okay, I can contribute to helping the cause and helping the realm. And that's a big deal for Bela and really, for their family. So good on them.
Yeah, agree. Yeah, it was a good scene. So we end up going back to Harrenhal, and this scene kind of made me shudder, not for the reasons that we think. So yeah. It was too much even for Targaryens. It was a step too far, but we'll touch on it. So Daemon is dreaming. We know at this point that he's having very lucid dreams, very visceral dreams. And he dreams about sleeping with a beautiful Targaryen woman, a woman who's whispering in his ear how he's meant to take on the throne. The series was not fit to rule. And This is probably one of the more graphic sex scenes that we've seen on the series. We haven't gotten much of that, to be quite honest, outside of the brothel. Game of Thrones was more heavy on it, but so I was like, oh, they getting it in. But now with hindsight, no, thank you. So anyways, you know, she basically is telling him everything he wants to hear, right? Pumping his head up. And she says, you know, the series isn't fit to rule if only you were born first, my favorite son. And I was like, ah! And so Daemon pulls away from her and there's blood on his hand, right? Almost like signifying the birth bed. And he realizes he's literally having sex with his own mother. And whose name is Alyssa Targaryen. Like, my flabbers were gasted. Like, this, even Daemon was like, this too much. this Oedipus complex, Targaryens don't even get down like that. You know, your sister is great, your mom is off limits.
Your sister's great.
It's true. Your mom, that's completely off limits, unacceptable. So even Daemon's like shook by this dream. And we actually cut, like, so that you see the blood on his hands from lying with his mother, and then we see him being snapping back to reality. He's having dinner with the Strongs and he's eating some type of bloody sausage and it falls into like milk. It was a lot going on. And Daemon is discussing with Sir Simon like the progress that's happening. You know, he tells him he has to prepare Harrenhal for an enormous host because he is, you know, sure the Rivermen will rally to their cause. And Sir Simon's is like, well, how are we going to pay for this? You know, Sir Simon about his business. He's like, he's very much a very practical man. How are we going to pay for this? Maybe we should write to Rhaenyra, you know, because our coffers are empty. You know, we only have enough to keep this place running. You know, Larry's took everything. And Daemon's like, yeah, we're not writing to Rhaenyra. I will guarantee the payment myself. And Lionel nods and he's like, okay, my prince. Daemon corrects him. He's like, you should call me your grace. I am, after all, married to the queen. What do you call someone married to the queen? And, you know, Sir Simon is about protocol. He said, I will call them the king consort. And Daemon goes, yeah, that last part is unnecessary, and walks off. So I'll stop there for your thoughts on that. I'm going to say a traumatic scene.
I just love that now we have rules for the incest. So, like, your sister, cool, but, like, stay away from your mama. And then, you know, then later on, you might end up marrying your uncle. I don't know. It's some weird stuff going on in the Targaryen world. You know what I mean? Like, it's like now we got the rules to it. But, yeah, that scene, I was not expecting that. At first, I was trying to figure out what was going on, because now that he's in this horror movie, you gotta wait for like some kind of blood to pop out somewhere, him to wake up, and you like, did he stab somebody? Is he in the room sleep? Like, what is going on? Because he's just in this weird like state now, and I don't know. I missed discussing this with you guys last episode, so I'm wondering, are we like clued in on? Is he getting drugged with something, or is he just really going through it because he's okay? That's what I was thinking. I was thinking something had to be, some other kind of substance had to be involved.
Yes, it's werewood paste. And someone on Twitter said Daemon is taking in so much werewood paste that right now he could probably dap up Bran. Like, that's how high into the stratosphere he is.
Man.
With,
yeah.
You know, so
yeah. It's intense. But yeah, you're right. That scene, going from that bedroom scene to whatever they was eating, because, you know, some of the food there probably ain't good anymore because they just like, you know, slumming it, trying to make it. So yeah, it was just a lot of like imagery that I didn't need, but I guess they really trying to, like you said, it's just like you feel like the House of Dragons, like the Game of Thrones world, gives you that horror element, but it's like they really went for it. I feel like in this episode, like what they're taking Daemon through is like really going hardcore, where it's like, you like, is he gonna snap out of it for, you know, I guess you waiting for the next, like, even more horrific thing. If it could get even worse, is he gonna ever snap out of, like, you know, what he's under? So yeah, I don't know. They need to put that sword back up in the door so he just stuck in the room, because I don't know. I'm nervous for him. Like, every time he goes into that dream state, I'm like, what's gonna happen?
It was nasty.
Yeah, it was. I was like, oh my god, no.
They went too far. Jamie, your thoughts on that scene?
So did Alyssa, did she die during childbirth?
I I believe she did. Let me double check on that.
Because I'm like, how did you not recognize your mom? That's what I was trying to figure out. So
she definitely died. She definitely died when Daemon was small, whether she died in childbirth with him or when he was small, but he never knew his mother. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's what I figured. I was like, okay, because I don't know much about her history. I was like, she must have either died during childbirth or when he was really young for her not to be recognizable to him in that lucid dream. But yeah, that was weird, creepy, gross. I'm like, Alice, girl, what is you doing? You are really tripping this guy out. He is really high on that werewolf paste, boy. Yeah, so that was just it bothered me. I was like, when that revelation came, I was like, and you're right, like this is the most I would say probably one of the more explicit sex scenes that we have seen all season of House of the Dragon. So for that to be the revelation that he was having sex with his mom, and it's such an intense scene, I was like, oh my god, what in the world? So yeah, that was absolutely gross. And then the exchange between Sir Simon and Daemon, it's just funny. It's so funny to me when Sir Simon refers to him that way. It feels like it's a running gag at this point when he mistakes his title, I guess, and Daemon has to correct him because like Sir Simon is all about, like you said, he's all about the protocol. Like, why am I calling you different names? Well, why am I improvising, ad-libbing, all of this stuff? You just making stuff as it goes along,
right?
And you are the king consort. Like you are not the king. And Damon's like, oh, you can leave that last part out. No, we're not doing that. We're not doing that.
Right, you're the king consort.
You are the king consort. Okay, Rhaenyra is the queen. That's how this works. But one thing that is hilarious that I saw on social media with regards to this scene as far as like Sir Simon and talking about the finances of Harrenhal, someone was like, yeah, well, it's interesting how they keep the lights on when you see Sir Simon's wardrobe, because I don't know if you guys have paid attention to his wardrobe. He is really dressed to the nines. Like it is.
He's nice.
Like, how much has he been spending on that wardrobe? Because I'm sure that some of the funds to get Harrenhal together could have probably went towards,
he's a castellan. His salary.
Get some his salary. Going, some of the.
I thought Sir Simon's an honorable man. Yeah.
I'm like, okay, so some of that.
They could be vintage. He could just take very nice care of his things.
Yeah.
No, so I'm not gonna let people slander Sir Simon because he is an honorable man. He's an honorable man. Those are hand-me-downs. That's vintage.
That's
that's vintage.
I love Sir Simon. I absolutely love Sir Simon. And one of the most ironic things of this series so far is the fact that Daemon would not eat any of Simon's peas, but yet he will drink poison. He'll drink literal poison. He will drink potion from Alice Rivers. It's like, okay, so you're quick to drink this potion from this woman who you don't know. She's a complete stranger to you. But yet you was really hesitant about eating peas that night in Harrenhal. Like, bruh, get it together, Daemon. Get it together. Now look at you. Now you having sex dreams about your mama. See what you did now? So yeah. It's I know it's crazy. This show is so wild.
Bad. It's so bad. I was like, why would you do that? Was a true jump scare. Like I was like, what? Mama. I was thrown off. Oh, right. Let's clear that from my memory. So we're gonna cut to Alicent. She learns from the Grand Maester that Aegon will likely never awaken from his coma, right? Because I didn't say it earlier, but Aegon was not conscious when he was getting operated on, which reinforces the idea that a regent is indeed necessary. So at the Green Council, Aegon, against Alicent's wishes, Aemond is made regent. Alicent initially put herself up to the council, And they all say, like, no, it should be Aemond. Even Larry states that, while Alicent had previously served as regent under Viserys, it would hurt their cause to raise a woman up on their behalf, right? Their whole reason why this war broke out is because they do not recognize Rhaenyra as the true heir, as she's a woman. So why would they now put a woman on the throne? It just doesn't work that way. So Kristen is asked for his opinion, and Alicent's looking at him like, that's supposed to be her boo. That's her sword. I can never say this right. Sworn sword. Sworn sword in more ways than one. And Kristen folds. He's like, Aemond is the right choice. And I actually love this scene as much as I can't stand Aemond. Ewan's acting is on point. He grabs his little stone from the middle of the table, walks over real smugly to the head of the table, puts it in place, and sits down and starts conducting business as if he's been king all along. He's been regent all along. So he starts to order the Green Council on next steps. They need to pretty much keep the city under surveillance. No one's allowed to go in and out without permission. Also like take down those rat catchers. And while he's, spouting all these various things off, Alicent is very much put in her place, and she's sitting there like Mr. Krabs, like that meme with Mr. Krabs. Like, she's sick to her stomach. She can hardly like hear what's going on in the room. She's so much in her head because she's literally been stripped of everything she's worked for, and she cannot take it. So I will stop there for your thoughts on that scene.
Alicent. Boy, I tell you, when I tell you, like, that scene just spoke volumes of like everything that all the choices that she's made up until that point, thinking she had like certain allies, not paying attention, thinking she just gonna coast. So yeah, they played that well with that like slow zoom in, the noise, like, kind of zones out just on her, like that panic mode, as you said, realizing that she has no control. They just, everybody was just like, nope. You need to sit down because of this. You didn't do this. You no longer have the place to do this. So it was just like the long list of just like shutting her down. And yeah, Aemond is definitely scary in this moment. Like the way that was played, taking his position, you could tell he got plans on top of plans. It's about to get real. So she's like the audience right now, except for you're thinking, well, girl, you had many opportunities where you could have been like, all right, let me have a backup plan. Let me maneuver because my son's is out of control. But she's just like, oh, no, we can't do anything. No, it's sad. We're not doing anything. So it's interesting to watch like her council versus go back to Rhaenyra on council. So I like how they always do that, like that back and forth every episode. So you can see like how the women are juggling and who got the guts, right? Who got the guts to stand up? Like, it's not going to be fair, but are you just going to sit there and cower in your little chair? Or are you going to do something about it? So it's interesting to see the dynamic.
Yeah, she's not about her business, baby.
Yeah. Wow. I feel bad, but at the same time, Alicent, you put yourself in this position. So I can't feel too bad.
Angelica was like, what?
Exactly. But when it comes to the patriarchy, which I spoke to earlier, that's really kind of what this episode, the theme around it, feels like. The patriarchy was showing their ass in this episode and in this scene, because Alicent, seriously, 100%. Like Alicent, she was outvoted as an authority because she's a woman. And what was really sad about this scene is that two people that she was in very close allegiance with basically were traitors to her. Like, she went over to Larry's and looked at him, and Larry's like, gonna go with Aemond. And it's sad because even though they didn't have a sexual encounter, she did kind of trade sexual favors with the whole foot thing for information. And then meanwhile, Kristen, who she has been having sex with, who she's been riding the whole episode to the point where she got herself pregnant, is vouching for Aemond and wasn't in her corner. So these two guys who she kind of like, basically compromised her morals and values for. Maybe with Kristen, it was more of her having fun with him, but they weren't with her in the end when it was most important. So in that sense, I do feel bad for her. And then that scene with Olivia Cook where it's just kind of like you hear the background noise kind of like muffled a little bit, and then it's just focused on her. That was a great scene and a great performance by Olivia Cook, because it's like you can pretty much read her thoughts. and it was like you could see the wheels turning in her head as she's sort of going through all of these series of events that have led up to this moment. And probably even thinking about the mistakes that she made, and maybe even thinking about the prince who was promised conversation with Aegon. It's a really impactful scene, and I like the way that was executed in that way. And then Aemond, I agree with you completely, Angelica. Ewan Mitchell is killing it. He really is. And I liked, it wasn't that moment that you pointed out. It was the moment where he has this very smug expression, this smirk on his face, when they even brought up the idea of exchanging the guard, and as if he knew, he was ready, because as we saw, as we saw from the Battle of Rook's Rest, this is something he was obviously planning. So I get the sense that Aemond already has like a list, already has an itinerary of all of the things that he wants to undo of Aegon's when he gets into power. And that rat catcher thing was like first on probably because that's the easiest, right? But then some of the harder, more difficult things to kind of push forward, he's got lower on the list. But yeah, he was ready. He was ready, waiting, like, I'm just waiting for the word. And probably there was some, who knows, there was probably some wheeling and dealing happening between him and Kristen before even this council meeting came up. You know, and maybe with even him and Larry's, who knows? But again, I just, at the end, I feel really sorry for Alicent, because she was kind of doing her own wheeling and dealing with Larry's, and, you know, having her little fun with Kristen, thinking that he was going to be loyal to her. And then look what happens. And then she's being called a woman, and that she can't be in a position of authority because of that. And it's like, wow, y'all are cold, y'all cold.
Cold-blooded. Yeah. And you know what's like really tragic about this whole thing? Otto Hightower planted that seed in Aemond to step his game up. Like, remember, Otto told him, you got to reel it in, young man. Your brother ain't shit, right? You got to reel it in. You got to help lead. And he took it. He was like, all right, grandfather, got you. So Otto unknowingly, even he not even there no more, is kind of betraying his daughter yet again. So oh well, that's what you get for choosing the wrong side. So there you go. So back over to Team Small Folk. We see Hugh the Hammer, and I just cannot call him just Hugh. I always have to call him Hugh the Hammer. It just sounds so cool. So Hugh the Hammer is attending to his sick daughter while his wife tells them they have to leave the city. It's no longer safe. They must flee. You know, and Hammer, Hugh is not trying to leave. You know, he's like, we can make it work. You know, he's basically the man of the house. I can take care of us. And she's like, with what money? What are you talking about? Has the king paid you for all the work you've been doing? He's like, well, he promised. She was like, the king is a liar. He's not paying you. You're being fooled. It's like, we have to get up out of here. And she says, you know, my brother has room for us in Tumbleton. Pin that. That is a very important location. We will definitely find out about that later. And it's actually very ironic they mentioned that location in reference to Hugh, but I digress. So she tells them, like, you can stay here, you can be the man, do what you got to do. I'm leaving. Are you coming or what? So obviously he loves his family. He's not going to leave them behind. He reluctantly agrees. And then we end up cutting to the gates of the Red Keep. So we go back. Kristen is confronted by Alicent, and she pretty much says, like, what's up? Like, what was that back there? You did not have my back, you know? And Cole is like, look, we need a strong leader. I saw what happened at Rook's Rest. I saw the damage inflicted by the dragons. This is no longer a war that can be, fought by someone, once again, of the fairer sex. I'm sparing you the carnage. This is no longer a war between humans. This is a war among dragons. And we need to look to men. And she's just like, you cast me to the side. You let me down. I can't believe you did this to me. Don't patronize me. And he calls her Allison. Like, I forget exactly what he said to her, but he was like, Allison, I'm trying to protect you. And she was like, I didn't give you permission to call me by my name. So you could tell she is a big mad at him. And she walks away. And all this is happening as the rat catchers are being taken down. So quite a juxtaposition there. And so we go back to the gates of King's Landing. Hugh, his family, and hundreds of small folks are rushing to the gates. They're trying to get up out of this city. Too much is going down. But they're stopped as the gates are barricaded. And a knight tells them, or a gold cloak tells them, by order of the king, no one can, by order of the regent, Aemond Targaryen, no one can leave the city. And at this point, it causes a frenzy among the crowd. And this tells you how much the small folk do not pay attention. They're like, Aemond? Is that the king? So they don't even really know the names of their leaders. It's whoever's up there on the throne. So obviously, Hugh is trapped in the city with his family. And really, there's not much more that can be done there. So I'll stop there. For your thoughts on that scene with the small folk trying to leave the city, Hugh trying to save his family, and Allison confronting Kristen about pretty much doing her dirty.
I mean, well, duh, Allison. I mean, girl, you should have been kicked him out. Like, I could tell you that was coming. But yeah, Kristen. I don't know. Kristen is like one of those characters that you just know he's just gonna keep taking it. We got like 3 episodes, I think, about, so we get ready to see what's gonna happen. Where you just like, is he gonna meet his end, or does he just keep kissing that knife in Allison's back? Does he keep, going forward towards the end? So maybe he is.
Oh no,
okay.
I'm not saying. I'm just demonstrating.
Okay. I'm about to say, because that made me nervous, because I was like, he about to do something ain't right. As he keep going, but yeah. So I could have told her that was coming, but I don't know. Being locked in in King's Landing and you can't go out nowhere, and these people crazy already. Whoo, it's like the small folk can't catch a break. Like, they trying to get meat, they trying to get some bread, something, some medicine, something. They just keep getting like hammered in, which makes you think like something big, like, I don't know, like Masari is talking about, like something big is going down, because you can only take so much. As small folks, you can only take so much of being like closed in, nobody listening to you. As you said, I guess I'll go with the hammer. His daughter not being able to like not feeling well. Yeah. Just, I don't know, like that. And that scene just broke my heart. Like, every time they go back to that and he's like dabbing her with a rag, and you just want to, you're just like, well, is she going to make it to, whatever they're trying to go to, or whatever's next? Because he's getting false promises. Like, everything is going on. They're not focusing on the people. They don't care. Like, they'll make you whatever promise, so you get up out their face and do whatever they tell you to do, because they got too much going on in their family. So, it's just heartbreaking just to see that kind of stuff. But at the same time, you're reeled in, because at least we get a different, it's a different look. It's not just the same old, like people, when you kind of get more interested in like their lives and their backgrounds and what happens.
Yeah. Jamie?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm glad that they're showing more of the small folk in this series compared to like Game of Thrones, because they're really important. I think that they're definitely going to be playing a big role in this story. And yeah, I feel bad for Hugh and his family. I'm glad that he agreed, because I'm just like, yeah, you guys, you need to do something, bro. I know the ego is kind of big, and you feel like you, as the man of the family, that you want to stay, and you feel like you're obligated to do that because you're waiting on money from the king, but nothing's coming in right now. So you guys got to do what you got to do to survive. Listen to your wife. The wife is right in this case. So good on him for that. Fans are just going to hate Kristen even more. As these weeks go by, Kristen is just going to be by far one of the most hated characters of this series. I think he already is.
If not the
but-
most. I think he is the most hated.
I
There's
know,
no one
which
else.
is so weird, you guys. I don't think he's worse than Joffrey and Ramsay Bolton. Like, that's
No.
just crazy to me that
Well, yeah,
there's
no,
actual
no.
comparisons out there to him
Oh,
and
yeah.
those guys. But yeah, there are people that hate. I have seen people say that they hate him more than they hate Joffrey, and I'm just like, okay. But I will say he is going to be more hated because of how he's turned on Alicent now. And even though there are people that are anti-Team Green, there are people that are still in the anti-Team Green camp that still like Alicent, that still kind of, have some sort of compassion for her character. It might be just Olivia Cook that they really like a lot too. But
Yeah, we love Olivia.
Yeah.
we do. But really, there are people that are like, kind of Team Black and they don't like Team Green, but they still kind of think that Alicent is cool. Like they don't hate Alicent as much as they hate as much as the other Greens. So the fact that Kristen has made this turn on her like this, I just feel like the temperature is going to go way up on the hatred towards Kristen. So yeah.
Well, what can you do? He's not helping his case anymore. So we see the twins.
And I wanted to add.
sorry.
I wanted to add one more thing. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
As far as Aemond and then the small folk not knowing that he's king, in their defense, I think they probably don't know because it just happened, and I don't think that they made like an official announcement or anything like that about him being king. So why would they know when it like literally just happened? I don't know what the passage of time is, but I wouldn't expect them to know that Aemond is the king.
Well,
and they don't even know the fate of Aegon because Aegon was hidden from the city.
Yeah. Also, they don't even really know what they look like too. Because remember, we go back to the bar scene. They're like, we don't even know what the royals look like. So I just feel like they're very removed from the comings and goings of the Red Keep, and they're more so just like somebody rules over us, which I think Masari had mentioned. To them, doesn't matter who's in charge as long as somebody takes care of them. And under this current administration, they're not being taken care of. So I think that leads to why they're like, Amen. But yeah. So we're going to cross over to the twins. So while we are very familiar with the twins, we have not seen the twins at all during this series. And the last time we saw this location, it was not a good look. Actually, no, it was a good look because Arya Stark killed everybody. So shout out to her.
Yeah, she sure did.
Yeah, the North remembers. So Jace meets with Lord Forrest Frey and his wife, Lady Sabitha Frey. So if you remember from the original series, Walder Frey had a lot of wives and they were very young. This Frey, for his part, married someone his age, and he apparently respects this woman. So already the ancestors are looking better than the ones we saw on the original series. So Jace is serving face and smoothly negotiating with them. I was nervous because they had a table set like in the middle of the bridge. So Jace is out here serving face, negotiating with the Freys. I was a little nervous. They had brought out a table. And we all know the right of the guest, right? If the Freys offer him food and drink, he's supposed to be safe. That didn't work out too well for Robb Stark, so I was a bit nervous. But you know what? He had his dragon's Vermax, waiting just outside of the twins, ready to pounce if anything went down. So he's negotiating with them, and he tells them, he wants to be able to use their crossing for Cregan Stark's Greybeards. Lady Frey, she's the one that's actually the person in charge. Her husband has very little to say. She's the one actually doing these negotiations, and she's just like, okay, I mean, we're considerate, but what do we get in return? And Jace offers up his protection in addition to threatening them with his dragon. Like, we could protect you from the other dragons, and we have a host of them. And Lady Frey's starting to bite. And she goes, okay, so does your mother support this? And obviously we know Jace is on this mission without his mother even knowing, but he smoothly lies and was like, yes. She says, okay, that is good. What's up with Harrenhal? Like, Jason's like, you guys want Harrenhal? And she's like, yes, we want Harrenhal. So Jason's like, okay, well, if we give you Harrenhal, my mom's going to want a lot more than a crossing. So Lady Frey goes, well, what does your mother want? He said, bended knees. So not only are the Freys going to inherit Harrenhal and get Dragonstone, but they will be aligning themselves with the Blacks. So they have yet another ally on the ground. So Jace is actually doing his thing out here. He's finding himself. So I stopped there for your thoughts on that scene, because I thought it was nice to see that.
Yeah, Jace has got it figured out. I just hope it keeps going. When it first happened, I was a little nervous for him because I was like, oh Lord, he didn't tell his mama he better go out here. She don't need any more, added stress on, because she's trying to protect him for that reason, just to make sure, because she needs to keep those allies coming and somebody there just in case. But yeah, he did it. I mean, he nailed it. I mean, she needs more people, as many people that she can get as allies, and then dare I say, Lady Frey, like she running the game. Okay, all right. I mean, I got questions from Game of Thrones, but I ain't gonna hate on the moment. She was giving out orders. She was trying to make sure, hers was secured before she was gonna give up something. So, and again, I guess I'm just gonna call out all the shots. Like just the dragon looking over, coming down. That shot was cool. Like I just thought that was cool how they were like, listen, don't get it twisted. Like I know you scared, but we got a dragon up there waiting, so you might want to be scared of us right now. So I love how Jace played that. So yeah, it was a cool scene.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Lady Sabbatha in the books was about her business. She was known for being merciless. she was kind of like her own version of Cersei.
Okay,
so
all right, man.
Yeah,
all right.
She ran the show.
Okay,
but over to you, Jamie.
Everybody wants Harrenhal. My goodness, that funky looking. I mean, I know it's like one of the biggest, strongest castles there, but it just looks so ragged to me. I don't know.
Just not the twins being raggedy.
and it looks when they show the interior shots, which by the way, they did a great job of showing what Harrenhal looks like, the interior of it all and stuff like that. But it just looks all smelly and damp and sticky and like that. I would not want to live there. But they want Harrenhal. And Daemon is claimed Harrenhal. So this should be a very interesting conflict. This should be a very interesting conflict. So I look forward to seeing how that plays out. And yeah, Jace is just, I've mentioned this before, he's doing a great job of delegating. He's doing a great job of negotiating. He is definitely coming into his own as a man and showing how regal he can be and knowing how to handle a situation. And hopefully Mama don't get mad when she find out what went down. But I'm all for it. I really enjoyed watching this scene and just seeing him give face in his performance. Harry's face.
Yes. Harry serving face. I know Harry look on Twitter like, hey, they always talking about me serving face. What about my acting? Like, no, Harry, you got to see nice to look at. We're sorry.
He's gonna build a complex about it, and then in season 3 we won't see it anymore.
He cannot help his exquisite bone structure. That is not his fault. So anyways, can't be helped. So we go back to Harrenhal. Daemon works to fortify the castle. He even chops wood, right? He's there amongst the workers. But his princely hands aren't used to this type of hard labor, and his hands are bleeding. Alice tends to his wounds. I'm sorry, I'm not letting Alice touch me, but he obviously has a thing for her, some type of kinship. He lets her do whatever. So as she's like binding up his hands, she tells him she's heard about what's happening in the Riverlands. The Blackwoods are committing war crimes. They're violating women. They're stealing wives. They're stealing children. Hide your kids, hide your wives, right? To try to win the Brackens to their side. Daemon insists, it's all for the bigger cause. And once again, team small folk, Alice is also a woman of the people, and she's like, so you guys do all of this, you men do all this in the name of war, and there's always the women and children who end up suffering. She wonders, are your tactics approved by the queen? And Daemon, for the first time, admits the people are not going to be led by a woman. They're going to want to look to a man. So when he takes King's Landing, Rhaenyra is welcome to join him at his side and rule with him. And Alice is like, excuse me? And she's like, okay, so what happens when you die? Like, what happens if you do all this and you die? And he's like, I don't care. It won't be my problem. And then Alice drops another gem. Yeah, that was a funny line. She drops a gem and she says, pity you never knew your mother. And they're interrupted by, back to your question earlier, Alyssa Targaryen did die during childbirth, but she was giving birth to another Aegon. So it was Viserys, Daemon, Aegon, and Aegon was born 2 years after Daemon. So Daemon was only a toddler when his mother died. So he never knew his mother. She's like, too bad you didn't know your mom. And he kind of like, he turns back, and I do not understand why this man cannot connect the dots. How is it that he's dreaming about all these things and Alice is always dropping these hints that she knows what he dreams about? Like, he is not putting 2 and 2 together. But in any case, Sir Simon walks in and states that the Brackens have conceded and they will bend the knee. So Daemon got what he wanted. He got the Brackens to join their side. So we also cut to a scene with Rhaenyra, who meets with Sir Alfred, and she pretty much tries to like see eye to eye with him. She tries to come to an understanding, and she tells him, you are right. I don't know anything about war, but I trust you, and I trust your judgment. Daemon, what is our only hope as far as getting a ground army? I need you to meet with him at Harrenhal, and I need you to find out his true intentions. So is he raising this army for me? Or is he raising this army for himself? So even Rhaenyra is suspicious of what her husband or his uncle is up to. And Sir Alfred was like, Daemon would never. He wouldn't dare. And Rhaenyra is like, you don't know Daemon. So she orders him to leave. And he turns to her and says, is there anything that you want me to tell him? Is there a message? And she says, tell him I would like to finish our last conversation. So I will stop there for your thoughts on Daemon at Harrenhal and Rhaenyra sending Sir Alfred off to meet him.
So I just want to point out Mr. Huz's uncle here for a second. At his whole speech of saying, hey, I need Rhaenyra to rule by my side. She can't lead because she's a woman. And as you pointed out, Alice is doing whatever she pleases with you because you do not understand something's going on that's manipulating your mind. Then you got Rhaenyra over here that just sent Sir Alfred over there to give you a message to spy on you. So the women is kind of working their pieces around you here. So I don't know. Like, I love the juxtaposition of him trying to talk about, oh, women can't do this. Women can't rule. They can't do this. But you got 2 kind of circling around you right now, man. So I don't know. I thought it was interesting the way they played that scene out to kind of have him do that kind of confessional and still think he's in charge. But you have absolutely, and there was so many moments where he's like, you feel him like put the hand on his head. You can tell that he knows something is like physically off, but he's still not putting it together. He still thinks he's like the baddest thing that stepped into the room. So it's just interesting to see how they keep like slowly manipulating these women around him.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Jamie, any thoughts?
Well, Daemon's been giving us hints throughout the whole season that he's the king, and now we know blatantly that that's what he wants. He wants to be king, and throwing Rhaenyra to the side. And that's just, that makes me really even more angry. That's why I am not a fan of Daemon, even though he's got a lot of fans. One thing I'm curious, because I don't know Alice Rivers' lore that much, is does she have the power to like glamour people? I'm using a True Blood term here, by the way.
No, because It's comparable. No, I was going to say, no, you're okay using that term because that was kind of a term that we use for Melisandre, right? Her using glamour to make herself appear younger. And so,
which a lot of people are comparing them to, and even theories are saying that they're the same person.
So I don't feel like this is a giveaway. We obviously see that she is some type of mystic. She's a witch, right? She even admitted she's kind of a witch. So yeah, she does use a bit of glamour. She does appear younger than she really is. Now she ain't 400 or 500 years old like Melisandre, but she's a bit older than what she looks like. And she does use that to make herself look younger. Whether it's her glamoring or her just using some really good potion, Alice's powers are what makes her look a little bit younger than her natural age. So good eye for people that pointed it out.
And the reason I bring that up is because there's something about her and that Daemon just feels always drawn to, like the fact that he drank that potion as opposed to, you know, not eating peas from Sir Simon, thinking that it might be poison. Why didn't he think that of her? And then, you know, by him allowing her to, you know, wrap up his wounds, and just, he's very vulnerable around her is what I'm trying to say. So I was curious to see if she had some sort of glamoring ability over Daemon to where, you know, he's very vulnerable around her. But yeah, it's seeing how this plays out, seeing that Daemon is hell-bent on being the king is really messed up. And there's a line that Alice said, forgot what episode it was. It might have been episode 3, where we first see her and she tells Daemon that you will die in this place, referring to Harrenhal.
Yes.
And would love to know, is that a prophecy of things to come? Because Harrenhal has had a history of the people that have taken over that castle, people dying. So
there's no throwaway scenes with the show.
There's
so
no
throwaways.
There's no throwaway scenes. So yeah, we'll see. But yeah, she's a very interesting mystic woman, and I look forward to seeing how this show is going to tell her story, because I do know a little, even though I don't know a whole lot, I do know a little bit, and I know she interacts with quite a few characters in this series. So yeah,
she's very influential in her own way, and considering she's like pretty much a bastard, right, that really has no place, she finds her ways around it. So we go back to Driftmark. Vale meets with Corlys. They lament together. It's like the first time we see them together, mourning the death of Rhaenys. You know, so they touch on that. They reflect on her, and then Rhaenyra tells Corlys that, Vale tells Corlys that Rhaenyra wants him to be her hand. So that was what she was carrying, and that package was the hand of the queen's badge. So Corlys is like, oh, even in death, like even after my wife's death, this woman Rhaenyra still wants more of me. And Vale's like, this is an honor, you know, this is a sign of her high esteem for you. And Corlys, you know, true to form, he's like, I would rather go sailing. I would rather go out to the west. And he's like, takes a long drag from a flask. Like, he's clearly in the cups. He is grieving. He don't want to deal with nothing. He just wants to be at sea where he's happiest. And he doesn't want to end up like his wife. Like, I'm serving this queen who ended up dying on her behalf. And Bela is like, no, Rhaenys fought for something she believed in. She went out fighting. She died like a true dragon rider. And that's like a death that I want for myself. And she gives him the hand of the queen badge and walks away. Like, she pretty much like tells her grandfather, like stop feeling sorry for yourself. Stand up. You know, be the blood of the dragon, be something. And as she walks away, he says, granddaughter, I would name you my heir. And this hands down is one of the best lines of this series. Bela turns around, she smiles and says, I am blood and fire. Driftmark must pass to someone of salt and sea. And I was like, damn, that's a good line. So I said, okay, I might have to get that tattooed somewhere. So later on, I'm blood and fire. I'm not seeing salt. So later on the Driftwood throne, we see Corlys holding the badge of the hand of the king in his hand, and he closes it, right? It's almost as if he's accepting this position. So I'll stop there for your thoughts on that scene, because that was a pretty powerful scene. And once again, Bethany is getting all the screen time. She's doing her thing this season.
Yeah, Baylor's just a badass. It ain't no way around it. Like you said, the line just nailed it. Seeing both of them in a scene, with Corlys, and you just kind of hear Rhaenys in that moment a little bit too, because I feel like Rhaenys always kind of championed for her granddaughters, right? Like she knew what they had inside of them. She was always like, well, maybe she could be your heir on this. And I always feel like Corlys kind of frowned his face up because it's part of that. Women can't rule. Women can't be the heir of anything. And for him to turn around and have that moment, like, oh, well, now I see. But Baylor was like, well, you too late now, because it's all about that fire for me. So I thought it was just such an interesting moment where he was finally clicking, where he was like, she understands. She does get it. Like, she can rule, she can lead. She's been learning behind the scenes. But yeah, that was a fantastic line. They did have tattoos on the shirt. Like, it was just the way she nailed that, and like his turn, and he was kind of like, not like crying, but the way his voice was cracking a little bit, like he was just realizing it too, which is that whole scene just played out so perfectly. It was just, it was so fun to watch. And at the same time, you knew like they were just kind of like, on their own paths, going to have to discover like where they go from here, at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. Jamie?
This was my favorite scene in the whole episode right here. It was just brilliant. Bethany, all the love, all the praise on this one. She just did such an incredible job in this performance. And what an interesting dichotomy between Corlys and Bela in this moment, because Corlys is very wounded, he's very defeated, and he almost just wants to kind of give up. And then Bela just shows strength and resolve and sustainability and diligence, and she really is a leader in this moment. You wouldn't think that of Corlys, and I just love seeing that dynamic play off in this scene. When Corlys said to her that, okay, I'm going to make you the new heir, I got up and started clapping. I was like, yay!
Acknowledge her. Yeah,
I was like, yes, because we remember that conversation between him and Rhaenys. I was giving him the side eye, like, really, dude? Like, Rhaenys is trying to recommend her for heir, and he was like, a woman, But now he sees that, okay, she is someone that is a leader. It's someone that could step up to the plate. But then she delivers that badass line, I am blood and fire, and Driftmark must pass the Salton Sea. I was just like, wow, that is a boss line. I'm trying to think, who wrote this episode? Gosh, we need to find out who wrote this episode and give them their flowers. I know Claire Kilner directed it, but I don't know who the writer is. Got to look that up. But yeah, it was just a really incredible scene, and I just love seeing how Bela is really showing strength in a moment where she could easily just cower and feel sorry for herself, or just feel really sad and depressed about what happened to her grandmother, and even just about the events of what's happening around her. But you wouldn't notice because she's just so, valiant, and she's someone to be admired. So I love me some Bela Target. Like she's even more of like, I have so much more respect for her now. Even after this scene, like I loved her before, but I even love her even more now after watching this scene in this moment in episode 5. So props to you, Bela and Bethany.
Yeah, Bethany. She is a true Targaryen through and through. So yeah, great scene. So we get into the end of this. We're starting to get to the end of the episode, into the home stretch. Daemon once again, he is just having the worst sleep of his life. Like, someone get him a sleep study because this man has had no rest. He's not really able to fall asleep. He's kind of in and out of it. You know, like this really was like a horror trope. Like it was like, like you see like the shadows on the wall, and then like the camera kind of pans to him sleeping sideways. I don't know. It was really artistic. But yeah, he ain't getting no rest, and he's interrupted by Sir Simon, who Daemon's like, what is going on? What is the hour? And Sir Simon says, the hour of the wolf. Put a pin in that. That is also a very important phrase. It'll definitely be a very important moment in the series, that hour of the wolf. I always like love when they drop these little Easter eggs. My little book reader heart gets excited. I'm like, oh, I'm like Leonardo DiCaprio. So when Daemon gets up, he's like obviously very grumpy. He walks into, you know, the great room with the big stone table, and the river lords, and there's a river lordess, so to speak. They're pissed, right? So Daemon's like, first of all, why y'all waking me up at this hour? Let me show you some decorum. Let me tell you about themselves. They do not care nothing about Daemon. They just start complaining. They're like, our seps have been destroyed, our lands have been sacked, you know, our peasants have been put to the swords. You know, it's one thing for a conflict to arise between the Brackens and the Blackwoods, but this is beyond. And Laena, so we get another cameo from Nana Blundell. Laena appears to him like as a ghost, essentially, and she has like this very ominous tone to her. She's basically saying it's not safe, war is upon us, and then she says, are you looking after the girls? Right? Because up until this point, has Daemon cared about his twins, Rhaena and Vale? Not really. So this is the ghost of Laena saying, what about your daughters? And we obviously know it's not really Lena's Alice pulling the strings. So once again, she knows a lot. Like, we talk about Larry's, like, where Alice get all her information for? What mind is she walking through? So anyways, obviously the river lords and the river lady, they're upset, and they say, you know, like, there's war crime. Once again, war crimes are happening. You know, at this point we expect this of someone that ordered the death of a child. And Daemon's like, that's a vicious rumor, and the man that spread those lies, he shall be brought before me. And they're like, what? It wasn't a man. All the lands think you're a child murderer. Like, this it is known. And they tell Daemon, like, we are not going to bow down or bend the knee to a tyrant. And I think even earlier in the scene, Daemon was trying to blame this on the Blackwoods. He was just like, oh, the Blackwoods did that. And they're like, no, they were holding your banners, black on red, a black dragon on a red field, or the opposite. So he's caught. Like, Daemon isn't doing war crimes on the low. He is now directly responsible for all this happening. So they get up and leave. So this grand plan that he had to win the Brackens over, he might have won the Brackens over, but he lost the river lords in the process. So I'll stop there for thoughts on that scene before we wrap up.
I mean, the river lords were like part of the ride or die, right? So I'm like, why did he think he could go after their families and they were gonna be like, oh no, that's cool. I'm gonna work with you now. It's all good. It's cool. We could come on to the same side. So I don't know why he thought that was his solution that was gonna make this work. And again, you see him like over there, you know, as you said, he just came out of the other final scene of his horror movie. He's like got his hand on his head and stuff. You can tell he can't really think clearly, like something else is going on. And he's just, it's like he's slowly like dwindling, losing that control that we know Daemon to have. You know, like he's trying to still have these plans, but you just keep seeing them fall through. So that was just such an interesting scene. And like you said, they came to bat. Like most people that I feel like Daemon tries to run over and they won't say anything, or he takes them out and they can't ever find them. But they were like, look, you messing with the wrong one. Like enough is enough. Like you thought that was going to get us. You know, I mean, dude, you turned the dragon on them and they was like, we out. So he's, you know, he's got the wrong type of people. So he's got to come with like, you know, a different type of game. Hopefully everybody survive and he don't try to kill nobody else. but he's got to come with like a different form of like how to play this game, because everybody is coming in on Harrenhal, and it's gonna be interesting. Everybody's coming for this territory, and he's like just slowly losing his grip. So it's just gonna be very interesting to see where that goes. But yeah, I don't know, Daemon. I don't know if he's going. I'm worried about him going into this next episode. I don't know if I should be, because he got a record, and all of his ghosts from the past could be coming back to get him. But we'll see how it goes.
The ghost of Daemon's past.
Yeah, the ghost of Daemon's past coming back. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I'm this scene was really interesting because, first of all, I got a lot of satisfaction out of just seeing Daemon be defeated by these
a woman.
Yep.
Yeah. And I don't know her name because she's unnamed, but I really liked her. She was very spicy, and I'm just like, okay, she is bold. But then I was scared of her. I was scared for her for a second there, because she was stepping up to Daemon. And we kind of remember the last time somebody kind of stepped up to Daemon, their head got chopped. Poor Daemon. So I was kind of like, you don't really step up to Daemon and talk to him with authority, because he's got a history of killing people. So I was a little concerned about that. But she survived, so we're good. But I think Daemon, now's the time to step up to him, because he's kind of weak, right? He's a little vulnerable. Alice got a chokehold on him. So technically, you could probably get away with saying some things, and it might go over his head, or he's got other things going on in his mind, or he's got some lucid dreams happening, and he's distracted. So yeah, he's going through it. He is really going through it. So yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see if he puts on that murder hood next week.
I love the murder hood. Well, Daemon's not even really officially Team Black anymore, because he's out for himself. He really is exclusively Team Daemon. That's what he is.
And the question is, how long? It feels like he hasn't been on Team Black for quite some time, and he's been sort of giving us hints throughout the season. So yeah, I feel like he was Team Daemon since the very beginning of this season. Yeah.
Yeah, you may be right there. I think so. We were shielded by Matt's charm. So we are heading back to King's Landing, and we see Alinda attempting to head into the city. She does not have on a murder hood, but she does have on a hood. And she walks up to a gold cloak who tells her to go back. No one's allowed in the city. And she says she's running an errand for Lady Massaria. So the gold cloak apparently is familiar with Massaria and has worked with her in the past, because he was like, wait a second, I thought she was dead. And she says, nope, she's still alive, and I have to see an old friend. So he leads her into the city, and Alinda ends up knocking on a door, ends up being the door of the bar/brothel, and the person that opens the door is Diana. And if you remember her, she was a former maid at the Red Keep. She unfortunately was a young lady that was violated by Aegon and had to take moon tea to get rid of a pregnancy. So that poor girl went from being violated at the Red Keep, and now she's working at a brothel. So I don't know what part Diana has in this, but the fact that they brought her back for this season says a lot. So I guess we'll find out what happens there. And then we end up going to Dragonstone, where Jace is being chastised by his mama. Remember we said, well, we don't know if Rhaenyra is going to be happy with him. She's not. She is upset with him. And she even says, like, you don't think I know what you're going through? You don't think I'm not frustrated by the fact that I'm also confined to this castle, with my, sitting here, holding my hands. And they kind of go back and forth, but ultimately, despite all of this, she is proud of Jace, right? Because he accomplished something and he showed himself. He's grown into a man. But at this point, Rhaenyra is more concerned about their position. They need more dragons. They lost Meleys. And, Rhaenys fought fiercely, and she did take down one dragon, right? She took down Sunfire. Even though he's alive, he's useless because he can't fly. But they need more. And Jace is like, well, we have plenty of dragons. And he mentions Vermithor and Silverwing, dragons that we have not heard before, but they have been around. They don't have riders. We also have Sea Smoke, who wasn't mentioned, but that's 3 right there. Rhaenyra says, that might be true, right? We might have dragons and we don't have riders. And, Rhaena was actually mentioned as someone that tried to become a dragon rider and she almost lost her life. So this happened off screen. We didn't see it, but Rhaena at one point tried to claim a dragon and it didn't go in her favor. And so for that reason, Rhaenyra is not going to risk it. And Jace tells her, well, there are others of our line that could ride dragons, right? So I had mentioned the Seldegars, right? There has been appearances of Dragonseed on this show. Hugh the Hammer, Adam Valarian, excuse me, not Valarian, Adam of Hull, Alan of Hull, Ulf the White, right? These are all people that have been essentially confirmed by the series as Dragonseed. So Jace proposes, they figure out who these people are, right? This supposed Dragonseed, the line of old Valaria, because those people could potentially be their dragon riders. And Rhaenyra says, it is a mad thought. And then she looks towards her scrolls, right? This big wall full of scrolls, right? All the history of the Targaryens. So there's an idea formulating in her mind. And it is an event known as the Reaping. And we'll talk about that in other episodes. But it's really exciting, this happening. But it is upsetting because there's a Dragonseed that has yet to appear on the series, and that is Nettles. So before I kind of give my spiel there on what I think is going on, what were your thoughts on those final few scenes? Alinda on her mission and meeting with Diana, and then Jace, coming up with this plan to get Dragonseed with Rhaenyra.
Diana is giving me like she's about to be on a revenge tip, so I can't wait to see why she's coming back, because something is, like you said, it's very interesting that they decide to bring this one particular character back. So this is going to be interesting to see. And the ending was my favorite scene because, like I said, this cast throws down, and the writing is bomb, but I came back for the dragons. So I love seeing this ending where it's like we get to talk about them more, we get to find out how they get paired up to their riders, and it's just so interesting to me to get to see that the dragons too have their own personalities, and who they choose to ride with. And Vhagar got like everybody in a tussle because she is just throwing down. So I just love to see how we get these different dragons in here and just how they have these different personalities and just learn more. So I'm just glad they're going into like the history more of like the little bits that we got in Game of Thrones, that they're going to break it down more for us and just see who's, because I didn't think about that. I was thinking that too. I was like, well, okay, Rhaenyra can't go out, she's got the fighting skills or whatever, you got Jace, but I'm like, well, what do they do, like to go against Vhagar? Like if Vhagar has a chance to heal and she could come back out, what dragon is going to take them on? Like, do they bring all the dragons at once? Like, who takes on her? So I was just so curious of their game plan. So, and then again, Rhaenyra and Jace's relationship is just, I love it so much. I love how she's like, listen, I'm mad you went out and did this. Okay, but you did your thing. Like, I see you got some alliances. I appreciate it. Now let's brainstorm. I just love that relationship that they have to understand how the kingdom works, because they have to work together. You can't trust, like, it's always somebody in the corner trying to backstab you. So they have to have that tight relationship that they have.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Jamie?
Yeah, so I think it was episode 3 in the bar scene where Ulf the White was like telling all his family business. Like, he's like the type of family member that you be like, dang, bro, why you gotta tell all our business out in the street? But then in that scene, Aegon comes in and he's like getting everybody drinks and stuff. We see Dinah. Is it Diana or Dinah? Diana?
Might be Deanna. It looked like, it spelled like Diana, but it could be Deanna. I forgot that they only said her name like one time, but bear with us. Sorry, Diana. Diana. Well, we see her in that scene serving him drinks, and it is really sad and tragic because she was R-worded by Aegon, and here she is having to serve him drinks, and he doesn't even know who she is. Like, he's having a good old time, throwing back ale and, spilling some on her at one point.
and he has no clue that this is a girl that you sexually assaulted. And here she is, traumatized, almost like you kind of see she looks like she's almost like frozen a little bit. And I'm sure she's still carrying that trauma, carrying that pain. And he's just going about his daily life like it's nothing. So I like the fact that they were intentional in showing her in that scene and in that moment. So yeah, to bring her back, I think you bring up a good point, Ryan. Like maybe there's like some sort of revenge mission that we'll see of her character as these episodes trek along. But yeah, it's, hopefully justice is served for her for what Aegon did to her. Because I think as people kind of like stand for him and like, oh, Aegon is this and that, it's like, y'all forget he did some really bad things. So just remember that. And then I like the fact that Jace brought up Vermithor, because Vermithor is big one. Not as far in terms of size, Vermithor is like slightly smaller than Vhagar. So that's really cool. But then I thought that it was interesting that Sea Smoke was not brought up, which, like, why wasn't Sea Smoke brought up? Because even that scene between Rhaenyra and Mysaria, where Mysaria says that she's lonely, you would think, but maybe Rhaenyra didn't. I mean, Jace is the one that brought up the dragons, not Rhaenyra. So maybe Rhaenyra didn't think to remind him, oh yeah, but there's Sea Smoke, and Sea Smoke is lonely.
There's Sea Smoke too. Yes, so he needs a dragon rider.
Yeah, and Sea Smoke is being pretty vocal about it too. It's like crying during the middle of the day, flying around like, I need a dragon rider. But we don't know what Vermithor and Silverwing is going through, so who knows? So, but yeah, these were some interesting scenes here.
Yep. And I wanted to shout out the name of the actress that played Diana. Her name is Maddie Evans. So let's see what work Maddie does this season. She has a bigger role to play, right? So I know we're running low on time, but I did want to talk about Nettles a bit, right? Because Nettles is Dragonseed and she was part of the Reaping. There's been no casting of Nettles. We do not see her on IMDb, on any of our, Warner Brothers press sites. There's no word of Nettles. And I know, Jamie interviewed Ryan Condal. He said, stay tuned. But someone pointed out that even though Daemon was not cast last season or even hardly mentioned, Ryan had recognized that he exists in this universe. So I'm getting kind of worried from our girl Nettles that she's not going to be appearing for this Reaping. I think maybe they're going with the storyline of Nettles' relationship or friendship or kinship with Daemon in the books, and maybe they will use Rhaena as that stand-in, right? Because we got to see more of Phoebe, who plays Rhaena's character, getting more screen time. So it's possible that maybe Rhaena will take on the Nettles role. And even she was mentioned, right? As far as trying to ride before and being unsuccessful. So can't say that it's not disappointing to me. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope Nettles is introduced in season 3, maybe in a different method than how she was introduced in the books. But I just want to know your thoughts on that, because she's the only black character, like canonically black character from the book. And so while I love the fact that they race-bended the Velaryons, kind of sucks if she were actually cut from the series. So any thoughts there?
Well, I think it's interesting you mentioned Rhaena, because going back to Laena, now he was under the whole potion thing, but like you said, no throwaway scenes. Well, Laena comes back and is like, are you taking care of our daughters? So that's an interesting thought of like, maybe there is a connection there with Rhaena being able to, take over that, I guess that position, so to speak, or in a way. But I'm hoping, I don't know, I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Since Jamie got that little nugget, I'm trying to keep my fingers crossed that maybe But I don't know. I was trying to keep hope alive. It would be nice. It would be nice to keep the melanin going and on the show.
Yeah, I still have hope.
Yeah.
Because he didn't say no, and also that to me doesn't make sense that Rhaena would take over Nettles' character, because Nettles had a kind of a romantic relationship with Daemon, so that would
Oh
be
boy, here we go.
Yeah.
But there's two versions, right? There's Mushroom's account of a romance, and then there's their Maester's account of them having just a father-daughter relationship. So if they would lean towards the father-daughter relationship, then it would make sense for Rhaena to take over the role. And that's what's been speculating. Like, all types of websites are like, is Rhaena going to be Nettles? Well, not Nettles in name, but taking over the role of Nettles. But it would just suck because Nettles has such a great arc in the books, and she has such an amazing story. I would literally be heartbroken if she gets cut from this show.
But isn't the show mostly, for the most part, following Mushroom's account of the stories from Fire and Blood? Like,
it does
Go ahead.
It does both, right? It leans, because, for example, the death of the Cargills goes with the accounts of a poet, right? So it's not always Mushroom being the only site. That there's two Maesters, there's Small Folk, and there's Mushroom. So they kind of take a combination of the two. But yeah, they kind of do lean more towards Salacious. So I would assume if Nettles was introduced, that it would be the more romantic angle. And then there's the whole thing with the dragon eggs. Because they're dragon eggs in the Vale, about 100 years before, there was another Rhaena Targaryen that lived in the Eyrie, and she fell in love with a woman named, I forget her name, I think it was Alice, like Alice. Forgot her last name, but Alice and Rhaena fell in love, and she stole the eggs, and she sold them, and they ended up in Essos. So there's a theory that the eggs were stolen, that Dany's eggs came from Dreamfire, and they were the eggs that were sent to the Vale, not what the show confirms, which is what is, oh my gosh, I'm losing all the dragons' names. What is Rhaenyra's dragon's name? Goodness.
I know, it's
hard to keep up. Rhaenyra's dragon, Cyrex. The show says that the eggs are Cyrex's eggs, whereas the book heavily implies that the eggs are, Drogon, Viserion, and Rhaegal are actually Dreamfire's eggs. So anyways, there's a few things that they're changing up. Like I said, I just truly hope that they cast Nettles and she shows up next season, because I'm a riot. I'm gonna be upset. So I'll end there.
This could take Rhaena down like a dark path. It sounds like, too. If they don't, like, if they are going this way, this could take her down a kind of a path that we don't want to see. Like, they'd already done traumatized us with this episode first.
Very dark.
Yeah.
I'm hoping too. I mean, someone had speculated that they saw the actor Thuso. I can't pronounce her last name. It's spelled Mbedu. She was in The Woman King. They said that they had seen her at the premiere, and there's speculation that she could possibly be, considered for Nettles. I don't know how.
Oh, that would be good. That would be good casting, though.
But yeah, like, I think that we probably won't see her in season 2 of House of the Dragon, but I think that we'll probably end up seeing Nettles later on down the road. I don't know about the Rhaena theory. That just, to me, doesn't seem like it would. I mean, I guess if you said with the Maester's account, if they went with that storyline, but even so, like, yeah. I'm not feeling it.
It would be out of character for what ends up happening to Nettles. It would be out of character, and it would be out of character to happen to Rhaena.
And it would be out of character for that relationship between Daemon and Rhaena, because they barely have a relationship now. Like, their relationship, not to go too far deep into, because I do know a little bit about Nettles, but it was pretty close. They were pretty tight, like, taking baths together.
Yeah, they were
and
like
stuff.
this.
Like, you know,
Regarding which account, they were still like tight. Yeah, they were still really tight.
they were pretty tight. So you know, combing each other's hair and everything. So like I don't get the sense that he would have that kind of you know what I'm saying? Like I don't think he would have that kind of
Relationship with Rhaena.
with Rhaena, because at least the show hasn't established that they barely had any scenes together.
No, they don't. They stand in rooms near each other. I don't think they've ever talked to each other.
I feel like he doesn't even look at his daughters. He just like, there they go. They just kind of exist. And he just walk past them.
Look at each other. They're barely in any scenes together. Like I
just don't want it to get weird for Rhaena. I don't know what they got planned, but just don't get on the weird tip, because I ain't trying to see it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I see the theory.
If it's not her substituting for Nettles. Yeah, if it's not her substituting for Nettles, Rhaena does have a good storyline if we stay in the area and we see more scenes with her. So yeah, I guess I'll have to wait and see. I guess I have to be patient.
Yeah, if we just take out the incest part of it, we would be good. It would be good. Because I wasn't hating on your theory until it got into the incest part of it. Then I was like, I don't want to see that.
Well, no, it's the mother-daughter account.
No, they wouldn't do that anyway. There's another account that.
Oh, go ahead. We got a lag.
There's no incest.
Oh, yeah.
I'm saying no, there wouldn't be any incest, Ryan. There's two different accounts. There's Nettles and Daemon have a father-daughter type relationship, and Nettles and Daemon are lovers. There's two different accounts. So if Rhaena were to take on that role, it would be more the father-daughter.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I was going for. But I thought Jamie was trying to hint at, if you're going through one storyline, it can, like, they have a closer, if Nettles and Daemon have a close relationship, like a romantic relationship, you don't want to see it be Rhaena's storyline, because then it gets super weird.
No, I wasn't implying that. I was saying that I don't want to see Rhaena and Daemon in that other storyline with the Maester, because it wouldn't make sense, because they don't have a close relationship to begin with. That hasn't been established on the show, so we wouldn't see that. And if they went with Mushroom's account, then yeah, that would be weird. That would be weird, because they do have a romantic relationship in the book, but that wouldn't make sense having Rhaena be that. So they, I guess, obviously wouldn't use Mushroom's account. So yeah. I didn't think about the Maester's account, because I mostly think we're safe. Mushrooms. Yeah.
You love some mushroom mess. That's what it is.
I like Mushroom's accounts are more interesting.
Yes, they're juicier. Yeah. Well, I think that's our time. That's why we're starting to get lags. That is our time. So
I know. They're like, okay, the internet god said, okay, enough. End this show now, and that is exactly what we're going to do. So thank you guys for tuning in to this week's episode. Please follow us on Twitter, on Threads, at Black Girl Nerds. Use the hashtag DragonsYall. We always enjoy engaging with you. Feel free to always let us know about your thoughts of this episode, and we will see you next week. Bye.
The Black Girl Nerds podcast is produced by Jamie Broadnax. The opening theme song to our show is written and performed by Samus. Various instrumentals are performed by Samus, Sky Blue, and Shubzilla. You can find various episodes of the Black Girl Nerds podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Audio Boom, Google Play Music, and Spotify.